Hey guys, welcome back. So I am getting ready to go outside and start some flower seeds now that I've gotten my tomato seeds sowed, and I have that in the books for the year. Tomatoes are started. I'll attach that video link for you below in case you missed it. But in some of the flowers that I'm sowing for this year, there are some that need to be soaked in advance. So if you're getting ready to start these types of flowers, I'm going to show you what it is that I'm soaking overnight, 24 to 48 hours in advance. And they have been soaking, so I'm going to get these into the soil today as well as many others. But before I leave the house, I wanted to show you what is sitting here in water containers. Okay, so this year I'm growing Globosa mixed Gumfrina and Salmon Pastel Gumfrina. I'm hoping to do some cut bouquets this year, you guys. So I'm growing these in masses all clumped together. From what I understand, if you grow Gumfrina too sparsely, they just look kind of leggy in the garden. So I'll be doing these in clusters of 3. Also, parsley needs to be soaked, you guys. So I have my varieties marked. I have my envelope next to the container, and you can see they've been in here soaking, and the parsley is going to be dedicated to our butterfly gardens. So make sure you read your packets and see if you're getting ready to start flower seeds. Sometimes they need special treatment. So some things need to be soaked, some things need to be nicked, some things need to be nicked and soaked, and some things need to be cold stratified for 2 weeks before you start them, 6 to 8 weeks prior to your last frost date. So read your packets and start to understand. The most important thing that you can do is know what it is that you're sowing and what it's going to require, so you don't just wait. You know, mark it on your calendar, set an alarm on your phone, do whatever you have to do that says, oh, I'm getting ready to, start my Gumfrina seeds tomorrow. I have to soak them 24 hours in advance. Set an alarm so you know, so that when the day comes that you're sowing all of your seeds, you're well prepared for cold stratification, soaking, nicking, and knowing what needs to be started in light or darkness. Now today I'm going to be sowing, and I'm not showing you this right now, but I will be starting Pacific Giants delphiniums. And delphiniums like to be started in darkness. It aids in germination. They're big, beautiful, perennial plants that should show up at least once a year. Some perennials are biennial, some, you will see in the first year, some you won't. I'm probably starting them a little late, simply because I just got them. So I might not see them until next year. But things like fennel like to be started in the dark, and the delphinium. So I'm going to sow them outside of I'm doing one big dome with 72 cells for my bootstrap farmer that's going to be dedicated to part of my flower inventory. But I'll do delphinium and fennel in containers by themselves so I can let them sit in the dark. Now, with delphinium, some people have success in soaking the seed. Others have better success in soaking their seeds inside of a wet napkin. Now, I'm going to tell you why the wet napkin works, or the wet paper towel, better than just soaking it in a cup, is because when it's folded over and it's soaked, you're giving it some darkness, so it aids in the germination. But once it germinates, you have to get it into the soil immediately, because that little seedling, once it sprouts, it will dry right up. So delphiniums are really, really hard to get started. So keep your fingers crossed for me this year that I'm actually going to have my own delphiniums, but I'll probably buy some plants in the store as well this year, because I really need to see delphinium. I really need to see foxglove, as well as columbine, and Canterbury bells, and beautiful magical flowers like that. So right now I'm going to take you out to the greenhouse with me again. It's quite warm out there, and I'm going to be starting some of my seeds, and I'm going to show you what I'm getting into the soil today. So, anyone who's been following along knows I have an absolute love and addiction to cosmos. I love, love, love cosmos. And I have more varieties of cosmos in the house that I'm not even going to touch on yet. Cosmos really do well as a majority of their seeds being just direct sowed after your chance of frost, and they grow happily in the garden late into the year, and one single seed will give you a multitude of flowers, and some of the varieties self-sow very generously on their own. But last year I tried, I think it was called chocolate magic or like a chocolate cosmos. I can't remember the exact name of it, but I think I got like 3 or 5 seeds in the pack, and I direct sowed them and they never showed up, and they were expensive. So this year I'm trying the apricota. I can't wait to see this flower, but you only get 10 seeds in the pack. So, and they take, they're like 100 days to germination. And I'm noticing that some vendors don't, okay, 85 days. Some vendors tell you a lot more information on the back of their packs, and some don't really give you enough information at all. So, you know, it does say to plant, sow in place in mid-spring. But I don't know if that's a chance I want to take, so I'm going to go ahead and start 6 of my 10 seeds in a starter tray. It's a little early, but because they take 85 days, I'm going to go ahead and get them started now because I want to make sure I see them. So at least I know I should have at least 4 seeds to direct sow, and this way if I like them, I can get them again next year, and we'll see where it goes from here. But gosh, I can't wait to see this. It kind of reminds me of apricot lemonade a little bit, but it's probably going to be finicky and germinating, so we'll see what happens. Now, one of the next things that I'm sowing in here, this is my packet of tropical milkweed. Now, I bought this from my local daylily farm last year. And I had never grown milkweed before, and you know, there's a big controversy that goes on with growing native plants, and that tropical milkweed is highly invasive. But actually, when you're growing tropical milkweed in a tropical zone, it might be highly invasive. But when you grow tropical milkweed in a place like New Jersey, where we get a hard freeze in the winter, it's probably not going to make it. Your native milkweed will be more invasive if you do one, you know, according to the state that you're in. So evidently the monarch butterflies prefer to lay their eggs on tropical milkweed, but I'm not a butterfly expert. So because the milkweed that I bought grew easily, it attracted so many butterflies, it was incredible. We actually had butterflies lay their eggs on the milkweed leaves. I was so encouraged that because this readily throws and generously seed pods out, you'll learn to know when to harvest your seed pods. There are some instructions with doing this I'll get into later on when we actually get to that point where we're growing the milkweed, and I'll show you. But I'm planting an abundance of these for the butterfly garden. So you can find tropical milkweed somewhere, but why bother buying seeds when you know you can just harvest the seeds from something that you're already growing and just have free seeds forever? So something else I'm starting is a new variety of salvia red that will attract hummingbirds. I got this in the MI Gardener sale. I already have a 6 cell started of this salvia, which grew and germinated very, very easily for me. It's a perennial here in New Jersey. Now, this is Mexican sunflower. I already have a huge envelope full that I collected on my own. Did I think I brought it out? I have to bring it out because you get a tremendous amount of seeds. Now, Mexican sunflower, when you harvest the seeds, can be a little tricky because you need them to be really, really dried out. And the finches love them. So if you're going to grow Tithonia or Mexican sunflower and you're planning on harvesting the seed for future use, which I hope you will, you're going to want to keep an eye on your seed pods, because one day you might have a flower that's ready to go to seed, and the next day the seeds are all gone because you may have a destructive little bird problem, and that's going to stop you from getting the abundance of seeds that will be available to you. I'm also doing Tweedia, which is not really a true milkweed, but I'm adding that to the garden as well because I thought it looked pretty on the Baker Creek site. I'm doing amaranth today from Botanical Interest because I'm going to be adding this to my cut flower arrangements. I'm doing 2 types of alyssum for fragrance and coverage and something low and clumping. I already have columbine started and it's doing well, so I'm going to finish this pack. I did cold stratify this, you guys. And also, I got this a few seasons ago and I never planted it. So I'm going to get this into a cell today and see what happens. Now, as I did with my tomatoes, I have dedicated a tray to knowing how many. I've already decided that I'll be doing entire cells of most things, except for, I came back and decided that I'm only going to start early 3 seeds of apricotta, saving the rest for succession sowing, and only 3 cells of the phlox so I can see what's going to happen. So I'm deciding in advance how many seeds I'll be sowing and how many cells. I'm going to fill each cell, each container. I'm going to put my label in there in advance, get this whole thing filled, and then I'll set it up so that I can start putting my seeds in. And I know I'm only going to take out, if I'm planting 6 seeds, I'm only taking out 6 seeds if they're bigger. If they're the kind that you have to scatter, like poppy seeds or something very small, then it's going to be a sprinkle. And you have to decide that as you go. And once you learn, what type of seedlings you're dealing with, then you'll know, what it is that you have to do in advance. This helps you to get organized so that when the time comes to put the seeds into the soil, you're not confused and you've already committed to what it is that you're growing and knowing where you're going to plant it. Right, so I have my layout in place. I'm very excited, and I have everything lined up so that when I pull my packet, I know that I'm going to take out as many seeds as I'm going to plant, and then I'm going to turn it down and put it aside. So there's no question that I planted it. Now the Tweedia is interesting. I want to show you. Hang on. I don't have my tripod with me today, you guys. I don't know if you can see inside here. I'm going to pull them out. Hang on. I'll show you from my palm. So here's the Tweedia seed, Tweedia is a relative of milkweed. And it's a South American plant that vines, and it's cold hardy down there in those zones, like anything over zone 10. But this looks very, very similar to the tropical milkweed plant. So, this is not going to be cold hardy here, but you just never know with climate change that we're experiencing. But I'm going to be mixing Tweedia in with my butterfly garden to attract the monarchs, because when you think about it, these little creatures are South American winged creatures, and when they come here, there are certain things they want to eat. So we're going to try this new in the garden this year and see how well it germinates. Kind of new to the garden, not really. Last year I planted Tithonia, which I purchased at a starter plant from our local daylily farm, not really knowing what to expect. When I saw that I was able to collect so many of those seeds, I have packet after packet that I saved. I went ahead and bought a fresh pack from Botanical Interest at the same time, just so I could see if there's any difference in what they're offering versus what it is that I saved. Now, I'm going to succession sow these. So this first batch of seeds that I will be starting will be all from this packet, and then I'll succession sow another 6-pack from my seeds to see the difference, and I will mark them accordingly. Now this says to do 3 in a group and then thin them out. I'm not into the thinning thing, you guys, so I'm just going to do 1 seed per cell. So I'll get started for the season with 6 of these plants, but I plan on having many, many more. Now I'm going to attach a really fun and whimsical video for you in case you haven't seen it, and I'm just going to want you to wait for it. Wait for it as you're watching the video. Farmer John and I had a magical summer day where, it was a slow start. We were waiting after we finished our coffee, we were going to get up and, get to work. It was very, very hot, and we were feeling really very lazy, and we said, let's go on a little garden tour. So we grabbed the camera. And don't you know, as I was staring at the Mexican sunflower, a hummingbird literally gravitated right up in my face, and we were able to capture it on video. It's slightly blurry. It's clear, but I mean, it's just slightly blurry, but the interaction that happened, because at the same time the hummingbird was feeding on the Mexican sunflower, there were monarchs and swallowtails all over it. It was so incredible. I can't encourage you to grow this enough if you have a bright, sunny yard. This does like it hot, it likes it sunny. But if you're wanting to attract pollinators and hummingbirds, I'd rather see you do it with this. Now I'm going to veer off for a second, and I'm going to talk about something that kind of irks me a little bit. I'm planting all of these flowers this year, and I'm creating hummingbird and butterfly gardens so that when these creatures get here to New Jersey, wherever they're going, I want to make sure that we have what they need to feed so that they stay interested, and that while they hang around our yard here, that they have plenty to feed on. Now, a lot of people do the same thing. They'll grow flowers, yet at the same time, they'll hang hummingbird feeders. Now, I have to be careful to not have harsh words on this topic, because feeding hummingbirds sugar-filled artificial nectars is so damaging. It damages their little eggs. Their egg shells become very, very thin, and it reduces the population of hummingbirds that are able to return to us every year. If you're going to feed the hummingbirds, especially if you're already a gardener and you offer bright trumpet-shaped flowers, red flowers that they love, why not just, since you have a hookup by your window and you're luring these little creatures in with this artificial nectar that is so bad for them, usually for our own selfishness as humans, because we want to see them up close. It's like giving candy to a diabetic child. It's bad for them. Too much sugar is bad for anyone, and it reflects really profoundly on these little creatures. They don't need that type of nectar. They get nectars from the flowers, and I urge you, I'll soften my voice because I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. It's okay to feel selfish when we want to bring nature into us because we enjoy it so much. But we can't be detrimental to a species when we do it. We have to work with nature and be mindful of what it is that we're doing as guardians of the yard, as stewards and shepherds. If we're going to coax them in, we have to make sure it's with what they want. It's not with candy, okay? Because giving them those nectars is like feeding candy. Please, I implore you, please offer beautiful, wonderful flowers that they love, like Mexican sunflower or a basket of red petunias, red wave petunias. They love that. And you'll have a better chance of seeing them again. You'll have a better chance of them nesting in your yard because you'll see healthy eggs and you'll see healthy birds emerge versus giving them something that's really, really bad for them, and then their eggs don't make it and their babies don't go on to live another year. So if we want to continue feeding the garden, you guys, we have to do it right. We have to be good shepherds to the garden. So that was my PSA. I'll get off my soapbox for now, and I'm going to get back to planting seeds. Another thing before I said I was going to stop talking, but the hummingbird feeders collect bacteria very, very quickly. And if you don't clean them regularly, and there's different bacterias and different things that happen inside of that water which becomes stagnant and sick and bacteria ridden very, very quickly, we're creating such harm for those little creatures. So there, I finished what it was that I was going to say about hummingbird feeders and why I really just cannot advocate for them. Please offer fresh flowers instead. So now we're going to look at tropical milkweed seeds for the butterflies. All right, so here's what the tropical milkweed seed looks like, much like the Tweety. You see, I bought myself a little packet of envelopes. I can link these envelopes for you in the description below that I got from Amazon, so you can see, you know, how easy it is to, you know, keep them handy, so that as you're starting to learn to harvest your own seeds for future use, you can just keep them organized. It's much, much better this way. So next I'll be sowing this red fire salvia in hopes that this will attract hummingbirds. And here's what these seeds look like. So they're very small. I'm going to plant numerous of these in each cell, which, like I said, I have marked. So I know that I'm going to do 6 cells, and I'm going to do at least 3 seeds per cell, because these types of flowers do best when grown in clusters. So with some of these seeds, you know, you guys, they're very small, so you just want to press them in gently because they need the light and they need to make sure that the soil stays nice and moist. So this is just getting pressed in gently. If you overbury them, they'll never get a chance to emerge, because I want you to think about how these things broadcast in nature when a flower's popping its seeds all over. They don't get buried down. They get surface sowed naturally. So that's what we need to do when we sow them in our little cells. Now this giant McKenna columbine is a perennial, and you can see that it has very small seeds. So I went ahead and started a cycle of these a few weeks ago, but I saved half of the pack because I wanted to see how well they were going to do before I wasted them all, in case I needed to try another round. So I'm going to do my second round now, and hopefully these will return in the garden for us next year, because giant McKenna columbine are really very beautiful, whimsical flowers that I can't wait to see them growing here in our backyard garden. All right, sweet alyssum, you guys. This is kind of perennial here. It's best grown as an annual, but it is perennial in anything greater than a zone 5, but it gets leggy after it's been growing for consecutive seasons. It is a very, very small seed, so I'll be mass sowing these seeds across my cells, and I'm only doing half of the pack of this. It looks beautiful. Hold on. In rock gardens or hanging from baskets, it cascades. It's got a wonderful fragrance. So I'm going to be doing Oriental Nights and Tiny Tim White for some beautiful contrast. So I'll do half of that pack as well. This is my first time growing amaranth, but I've seen it in so many floral arrangements, and I just thought it looked so beautiful with this variety of this beautiful red tassel that hangs down. So I thought, why not? I'm going to do cut flowers this year. Let me try the amaranth. But I don't know if you can see or not, but gosh, these seeds are this beautiful pink color. And I'm going to sow these in clusters and do an entire cell of them, saving half of the pack for either a succession sowing or maybe even for next year. But gosh, the seed itself is so pretty. So now I'm up to the apricota cosmos, which is a very typical cosmos seed. You'll see this over and over as you grow cosmos. I've never grown this before, but like I said, when I did the chocolate variety last year from Baker Creek, the actual name was something with magic, black magic maybe. You know, they also looked similar to this, but they just didn't germinate. So like I said, I'm going to start 3 now. It's a little early, but at least I'll know whether or not they germinate. And they have, like, sometimes they just like to germinate in more controlled conditions. If they get shaded out too soon, you just don't see them. So let's see what happens, you guys. Now this annual phlox is a free seed that I got a few seasons ago, but you know, the seeds hang on forever. So here's the size of this annual phlox seed that I'm going to sow all of these into just well, no, that's right, I'm only doing 3 cells to see how they do, so I won't be planting all of them. Looks like I'll be saving some for next year or for consecutive sowing. I'll see how well they do. It's always probably better to save a few so you can see if you need to change the growing conditions in order to get them to germinate. So yeah, so it turns out I'm only doing 3, and I'll be putting the rest of them back into the package. This package just doesn't seem to want to go away. Hopefully that's a good sign. So now that I've melted away out here in the 100-degree greenhouse, I'm going to go ahead and spritz these down and get my dome on after I get my Gumfrina into the cells. Now, I'm not sharing that with you, quite frankly, because whenever you're dealing with a wet seed, they're a little sticky and they're a little hard to handle, so I'm about to get frustrated. But I will be keeping you posted on how all of these things grow. The boys are screaming. I can hear them all the way in the house. They want to come outside. It's now well after lunchtime. It's beautiful and summer-like here in New Jersey today. So if you are new here, please subscribe to our channel. This is just the beginning of the flower varieties. I have endless amounts of beautiful zinnias, some from last year where I've harvested seeds. Some are new varieties, tons of cosmos still to be planted and direct sowed. I have nigella to talk about, all sorts of stuff. So the videos get very, very long, but I want you to stay with me because time is the most important gift that we can ever have. And for me to just assume that you're going to give me all of your time isn't quite fair. So anyway, hopefully we'll get to the point where you'll love the long videos like some people I personally subscribe to on YouTube. But anyway, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. If this helped you or you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't know me yet, my name is Leigh. Our backyard garden is located in northwestern Burlington County, New Jersey. We are in a growing zone or a cold hardiness zone of 7A. And the reason I'm emphasizing that with the cold hardiness is because the zone thing is confusing, you guys. You're going to hear more and more people talking about it. But I really look at that zone map when I'm trying to plant a tree, shrub, or a perennial flower that I'm trying to grow from seed. That's where the zone thing really, really becomes something that you want to be mindful of. But anyway, we're here in New Jersey, you guys. So please stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for sowing seeds with me today, and I hope to see you in the next video.